I can tell you that the injuries that your son has suffered have haunted my dreams for this past month.
For the murder of my sister Priscilla and her unborn child.
Anita Smithy has been sentenced to 40 years in prison for murdering her husband. Following Smithy's conviction last November, the judge handed down the sentence today. Despite facing a possible life sentence, Smithy displayed little to no emotion in the courtroom. The case involved a complicated narrative. Smithy was found guilty of having consensual intimacy with Robert Klein, then shooting him, stabbing herself, and planting a knife near his body to make it look like self-defense. Her defense argued that she had been brutally raped. During the sentencing, the court heard emotional statements from the victim's family. Klein's daughter described her father as a superhero. In contrast, Smithy's defense brought forward her father, son, and best friend, who painted her as a caring and loving person. Her best friend even pleaded with the judge to get Smithy the needed help. Despite the defense's request for a minimum 25-year sentence, the judge decided on 40 years.
We're just thankful to be in this situation. The defendant was found guilty of the crime she was charged with. The judge imposed a lawful sentence, and so we're just hopeful that both of those things can help the family get some sort of closure to the situation.
Just minutes after the sentencing, both Smithy's family and the victim's family declined to be interviewed outside the courtroom this morning. Smithy's attorney announced plans to appeal the sentence and requested a retrial. They are scheduled to return to Seminole County Court on March 9th for the appeal proceedings. A woman has been sentenced to several years in prison for secretly installing hidden cameras in locker rooms in Pleasant Prairie. Stephen Carroll and Melissa Wenkebach's family left the courtroom in tears after witnessing the young mother being taken away in handcuffs. Her father-in-law insists she is not the monster people perceive her as, but those affected by her actions strongly disagree.
I've lost trust in people and their intentions.
It was an emotional day in court as women confronted Melissa Wenkebach, condemning her actions as sick, twisted, and disgusting.
You don't deserve to be a mother. I mean, what kind of mother would do this to innocent children and other women?
Officials report that the scheme began in 2011 when Melissa Wenkebach was in a troubled marriage. She became drawn to the affections of her boss, Carl Lant, who eventually persuaded her to install hidden cameras in locker rooms at Recplex and Uline over a 3-year period.
I'm sorry that I got so lost and that trying to make Carl happy became so important that I couldn't see how horrible this all was.
The defense claims that Wenkebach has cooperated with authorities from the beginning and asserts that her apology is sincere.
I have a son, and he needs his mother. I'm asking you for another chance to prove that this is not me.
Her second chance might come through the Department of Corrections boot camp program called Challenge Incarceration. This 6-month program allows graduates to be released from prison. However, the state doubts she will be accepted for 2 reasons. There's a long waiting list, and she may not meet all the legal requirements. For now, the defense is unsure whether they will file an appeal.
Address the issue of appeal and what have you. We have to look back at the sentencing remarks made by the court. But at this point, this is devastating to her and her family. This is a significant punishment for her.
Co-defendant Carl Lant is currently serving a 9-year prison sentence. A Dayton mother, Michelle Moody, is heading to prison for 12 years for allowing child abuse in her home. Prosecutors revealed that Moody watched her boyfriend beat and eventually kill her son. In court, Moody apologized, but the most visible display of emotion came from Judge Frances McGee. The judge remarked that she had never encountered a case like this in all her years as an attorney and on the bench.
I can tell you that the injuries that your son has suffered have haunted my dreams for this past month.
In the days leading up to today's sentencing, Judge Frances McGee spent hours poring over evidence, reviewing statements, and looking at pictures of little Levi Barrett. The boy tragically died on December 7th, 2011, after being beaten to death by his mother's boyfriend, Joe Watson, who has since been sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Today, it was Levi's mother, Michelle Moody's, turn to learn her punishment.
And it's clear that you didn't ask too many questions. And you can't say you were a good mother because for a 2-year-old, they're not quite potty trained. You still have to look after their clothes. You have to change their clothes 2 and 3 times a day. You should have seen stuff.
Last month, the jury found Michelle Moody guilty of permitting child abuse, conspiracy to commit felonious assault, and endangering children. Today in court, Moody, who has 4 other children, asked for forgiveness.
I would like to apologize. I've been going through a lot since everything happened. I've been lied to. My name wasn't in the obituary. I didn't get to go to my son's funeral.
Levi's father was not present today, but his biological uncle, Clemmy Hine, expressed that his nephew suffered greatly and believed that Michelle should suffer as well.
You think Levi felt how scared, how afraid you think he was by being beat with hangers and belts, punched like a grown man till he died?
The top of his head.
Judge McGee remarked on the scars and bruises covering the boy's body, stating that someone should have intervened. However, she ultimately placed the blame on Michelle for Levi's life being tragically cut short.
We will never know what kind of citizen your son could have grown up to be. He could have brought such glory to our community in any number of ways. He could have been the next governor. He could have been an athlete who would have brought glory to this area. We will never know.
Judge McGee sentenced Michelle Moody to 12 years in prison. To put this into perspective, the man convicted of killing Levi, Joe Watson, received a sentence of 15 years to life. 33-year-old Priscilla Gustafson, who was pregnant, was raped and murdered in her home in Townsend. Her daughter Abby and son Billy were drowned in the bathtub. The killer, Daniel LaPlante, was a teen at the time. He was initially sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in prison. However, a recent Supreme Court ruling requires that he be resentenced since he was a juvenile at the time of the crime. LaPlante expressed his sorrow in court, addressing the judge rather than the victim's family, who remained unconvinced by his remorse. Priscilla Gustafson's husband, who remarried after the murders, passed away several years ago, but his second wife spoke on his behalf during the proceedings.
Mr. LaPlante extinguished Andy's family for no apparent reason, sidelined his career, sent him into bankruptcy, ruined his health, and left him a shell of a man for a very long time.
So Daniel LaPlante, for the murder of my sister Priscilla and her unborn child, I forgive you.
Priscilla Gustafson's brother stated that he forgives LaPlante for all 3 murders, but made it clear to the judge that forgiveness is a spiritual matter, not a get-out-of-jail-free card. After 29 years together, including 22 years of marriage, Brian Kozlowski's wife filed for divorce in May 2018. 2 months later, she began experiencing symptoms of blurred vision and extreme fatigue, particularly on days when her husband made the coffee. She even nearly crashed on I-375 during rush hour after dozing off at the wheel. Suspicious, she installed cameras and discovered her then-husband mixing the equivalent of 8 sleeping pills into the coffee pot.
I felt a horrible coldness in the air, as if I was being hunted by a dangerous predator. But in this nightmare, the predator was Brian. I fell to my knees and cried. I could barely move.
She also revealed a chilling conversation with her daughter, who mentioned that she had drunk the coffee one morning and then drove 30 minutes to work.
She was able to make it to her desk, only to immediately fall asleep for 2 hours. Brian had successfully killed his own daughter and set her on a path that could have killed her that morning.
Deeply like to apologize.
Then came the sentencing, where the guidelines suggested a minimum of 1.5 years in prison.
And if he comes back in society as a hardened criminal, what have I done? Nothing.
Judge Anthony Viviano then stunned the court by sentencing Kozlowski to 5 years probation and 60 days in jail to be served on weekends.
The people are requesting that you reconsider the sentence. A 60-day weekend sentence is a slap in the face.
I'm sorry, what?
The 60-day weekend-only sentence.
Counsel, I do not let anybody speak after I've issued a judgment.
Emotions ran high in a Miami courthouse today as the family learned the sentence for their loved one's killer. The suspect had confessed to accidentally shooting a girl in the head. Despite facing potentially several years in jail, he was sentenced to a much shorter term, which fueled a fight outside the court. Emotional chaos erupted outside a Miami-Dade courtroom on Thursday as a family was left hurt by the judge's ruling.
Hey, you're gonna call me mommy anymore. Mom! love you, Mama. You took that from me.
A mother's cry echoed across the courtroom as she faced her daughter's killer.
I'm so sorry that this is my fault.
Michael McGowan, now 20 years old, has been convicted as a youthful offender for the shooting death of a girl in May 2020. The incident occurred at a house party in Miami, where Ricky was shot in the head and killed. McGowan admitted to pulling the trigger, but has consistently maintained that it was an accident.
Michael was 17 at the time.
Prosecutors argue that McGowan's age is no excuse for his actions.
The judge had an incredibly difficult decision to make. She weighed all the factors. This was a tragedy from the beginning, but it was an accidental shooting.
The young man was sentenced to a year in jail, which was mitigated by participation in the county boot camp program, followed by 4 years of probation. This punishment felt painfully unfair to the victim's family.
She don't know what's going on. He got out of jail about 1 days after he my daughter.
In addition to his sentence, McGowan must also visit high schools to share his story of regret and discuss the consequences of his decision to play with a loaded gun. There were tense moments in an Oakland County courtroom today as a man sentenced for murder faced the victim's loved ones. Akiva McCrae learned his fate for killing a Pontiac mother, and moments later, an outburst erupted in court. The pain and emotion on the faces of the victim's family were intense. Just when it seemed the proceedings were over, drama ensued as convicted killer Akiva McCrae was led back to jail. The courtroom was filled with loved ones of Kenyatta Barnes, who were there to hear what McCrae had to say about shooting and killing the Pontiac mother of 7 last year. Moments before the outburst, McCrae offered only a few words.
I am remorseful for my actions. So I apologize to my family and the courts. That's all I can say.
Barnes's daughter was also shot but survived. Today, the pain was evident on the faces of Kenyatta Barnes's loved ones. The judge sentenced McCrae to 30 to 60 years for second-degree murder. Just as the sentencing concluded, someone in the crowd called McCrae a name, triggering the outburst in the courtroom. The outburst was a clear sign of frustration from Barnes's loved ones, who knew that McCrae, being only 22 now, would still have a chance at life outside of prison. The judge touched on this before the outburst occurred.
You will have an opportunity to live your life after being incarcerated for quite a lengthy time. Obviously, Ms. Barnes didn't have that opportunity.
According to McCrae's defense attorney, McCrae and Miss Barnes had been in a relationship. The night of the shooting, an argument escalated, leading to the tragic incident. Miss Barnes's daughter was also hit but survived, and according to the attorney, she is doing okay. We're in Ashland County, where the judge has emphasized that there must be consequences for this mother's actions. Before passing the sentence, the judge allowed her to address the court.
I'd just like to say that I'm so sorry for what I've done and what horrible decisions that I've made.
28-year-old Lisa Edwards appeared before National County Judge Wyke after leaving her son and daughter alone at home. During this time, the boy shot his sister 4 times with a rifle.
Parents advocate that the cabinet was locked up with the key supposed to be out of reach. If a child can get to it, then it's not secure. Doesn't matter how many locks are on it.
Edwards admitted to coming home after learning her daughter was injured, but returned to work without taking the girl for help until later that afternoon.
Ms. Edwards readily admits that she made some horrific mistakes in judgment. She also acknowledges that on the day in question, she gave in to her children's desire to not go to a sitter.
This is really a horrendous situation, and no parent should have to see their child suffer with this type of injury.
Judge Ronald sentenced Edwards to 180 days in jail on 2 counts of child endangering, with work release permitted.
There's got to be a consequence for your actions, although I don't think prison's necessarily necessary.
Had it been obviously properly secured, we might not be here today. But primarily, if she would have just done what she was supposed to do and take the children to daycare or the babysitter, this accident or any other accident that could have happened with those 2 children being left at home would have been avoided.
The 8-year-old boy who fired those shots was not charged. As part of her sentence, the judge ordered Edwards to never have a gun or even ammunition in her home. Our last story takes us back to July 1999 in Ohio. Scuba diver Carl Claren went for a swim in a suburban Cleveland quarry near his new house. While driving along the shallow edge of the quarry, he noticed something unusual, a duffel bag. Curious, he brought it to the yard and unzipped it. The discovery made national headlines, and the police believed they were searching for a monster.
This is Jessica Coleman. She was a cheerleader, she was a star athlete, an honor student, and only 15 years old when she gave birth to baby boy Hope.
Jessica's actions surprised everyone, including her parents, who never expected such behavior from her.
A role model for every young kid. She was a great sister. She had tons of friends.
But at home, things were different. Her dad was very strict, while her mom was the complete opposite.
My parents are divorced. And when we were with my mom, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. She's always been more comfortable in the role of a friend.
When she was a high school freshman, Jessica started dating Tom, a senior and popular basketball player. Months later, Jessica felt like it was the end of her life.
Within those few minutes that test registered, I felt like my life was completely taken away from me.
Jessica told Tom about the baby, and they made a pact to keep it a secret for as long as possible. Tom would even sit on Jessica's stomach every day to prevent her belly from growing. 9 months passed, and aside from Jessica wearing increasingly baggier clothes, no one noticed anything. One day, while at school, Jessica started experiencing terrible cramps. She had her mom pick her up and take her home.
When I got home, I took some Tylenol and I went straight into my room and I laid down. My cramps started getting a lot worse. After being checked on a few times by my mom, I felt like I needed to use the restroom. And when I went to push, it's as if he fell out of the toilet.
Jessica picked up her newborn baby, but it seemed he was already dead.
He never made any noises or moved at all by himself. And by the time I had got to my room, I had fallen on top of him.
After giving birth in her bathroom, Jessica blacked out from losing a lot of blood and collapsed on top of baby Hope. Amidst all this, Jessica's mom and sisters called her downstairs for dinner.
Just given birth in your bedroom, and how long from the time that you gave birth and went to dinner, sat at the dinner table?
I'd say maybe a half hour or so.
Jessica sat at the dinner table with her family, silently pushing herself to say something.
And this whole time I kept thinking, I need to say something right now. I need to get help while there's still possibly a chance to help him in any way. And I couldn't.
Panicked, Jessica went back upstairs and found her baby boy in the same state she'd left him, unconscious. She couldn't tell if he was dead or just in pain. In a frantic state, she decided it was better to end his suffering rather than leave him like that.
I stabbed him. I stabbed him in the chest because I thought I was taking away his pain.
Reflecting on the events now, Jessica realizes none of them make sense. She blames everything on her panic.
This morning I got up to get ready just like I would any other day. And I went to the bathroom, and the afterbirth came out as I was going to the bathroom. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this cannot be happening again.
Jessica quickly cleaned up and hurried to school. After school, Tom came over to see her at home.
I had bundled him up, and I put him back in my closet in a black duffel bag.
It was Tom who filled the duffel bag with rocks and threw it into the quarry. Jessica never felt relief, only regret that persists to this day. The body was discovered 6 months later, but it took 6 years for Jessica to be caught. The police were convinced they were looking for a psychopathic male killer, while Jessica was drowning her guilt in alcohol and narcotics. In 2005, Jessica and her new boyfriend, Matt, were chatting in a bar when she had a nervous breakdown and confessed everything. Someone overheard and reported it to the sheriff. Both Jessica and Tom were arrested. Tom was sentenced to 3 years, but was released after serving 13 months. Jessica pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment, resulting in a 6-year prison sentence. The demon's laughter echoed in the hollow shell left behind, a cruel punctuation mark at the end of a life barely begun. To ascertain why Nicola Mew took Isaac Schumann's life on July 30th, 2022 in St. Croix County, investigators employed diverse investigative techniques.
What's the zip code in Prior Lake?
55372.
Okay, and how about a phone number for you, Nick?
612-735-6317.
6317, and I understand you're married to Sandy,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Is she okay?
She is, yeah.
She's
I did talk to her. I talked to her for quite a while. I brought her to get dry clothes.
Where is she?
She is with Ernesto and Amy.
Okay, good.
They're taking good care of her. And then
Titi, my puppy.
She's headed home to take care of the dog. And she's also with Ariel and who's his girlfriend?
Oh God, I don't even know.
Is it Tatiana?
No, Tatiana. Tatiana is another girl.
Okay.
But she's not.
Hold on,
with
they
that
gave
girl.
me.
Yes.
Oh, Sandy didn't know Ariel's girlfriend's name.
Neither do I.
Okay. But Ernesto and Amy came to where I was with Sandy, and they went and got the car. But I had brought Sandy to the car to get
She was
changed.
driving, right?
No, she was with me. I brought her from the river to the car
Okay.
so she could get clothes, and we brought the cooler back and put that in the car. So she's got all the stuff.
All right.
Are you working anywhere now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where do you work?
I work at Reach Engineering as a mechanical engineer.
And what kind of engineering? What was that?
Mechanical engineer.
Yeah, what's the name of your employer?
Oh, Richie.
R-I?
TCHIE. Engineering. In Blooming. 55427. I think it is.
Okay. What was the last grade that you completed?
I have a bachelor's, and I have actually 2 degrees, one
Okay.
in engineering, one in mathematics.
Wow.
And I'm a class away from a master's in both. I'm not a dummy, and I've never had a run for the law, except when I got we'll go into
Okay.
that.
So where did you get your degrees from, your undergraduate
South
degrees?
Dakota State University.
Okay. Is that the Bison?
No, the Jackrabbit.
Oh, okay.
In Brookings.
And how about your master's degree? Where are you working on that?
I'm not working on it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I did pass the EIT so that I could work
Gotcha.
for the state as a licensed engineer, but I haven't had a chance to do that. For many years, I worked as a contracting engineer. And then for the past 16 years, I've been working with Richie Engineering, where I met Sandy.
Okay. What does Richie Engineering do? Like, what do they manufacture?
What do we do? We do HVAC service equipment.
Okay.
Basically, we're the top tier of HVAC. We're like the top brand. And top brand for that is Yellow Jacket.
Okay. And is that for the parts?
The brand of yeah. Everything we make there, we make it under the Yellow Jacket brand.
Got it.
But
Okay.
the company name is Richie Engineering.
Okay.
So what I do everything from hoses, recovery machines, all the electronics. I talk to customers. I get business. I do the documentation, the design. It's a small company,
Okay.
so I like to do everything. Testing, evaluation, you name it. You know,
Wow.
16 years over there, and that's not even scratching the surface.
Really?
Well, I have bigger dreams now,
Yeah.
shattered, but anyway, I don't want to talk about them right now.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what happened. I just don't. I can't talk about it. I need to go one step at a time.
Yep. And if you have any questions along the way, Nick, just stop and ask me, okay? Or if you need to take a break, just.
How bad is it?
Well, can we get through this form and ask each other
Yes,
questions?
yes.
I don't want to. I want to maintain the integrity of this investigation and your rights, and so I want to get through this form, and then we can ask questions, okay? So I'm going to turn this around. I'll give you this pen. What I'll have you do is I'm going to read each. You seem to speak excellent English.
Yeah.
You can read.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Miranda rights,
Yeah.
which have not been read to me when I was put in the car. Is that
And,
right?
and that's okay, as long as they weren't asking you any questions, they don't need to.
Oh.
But I'd like to ask you questions, so that's why we're gonna go through this right now,
All right.
okay? So I'll let you have that pen, and so I'm gonna read these to you, okay? You have the right to remain silent.
Or just the...
You can check mark it, or some people put their initials, you know, we'll have you sign it at the bottom, so that's however you wanna do that. Anything you say can be used against you in court or other proceedings.
After attempting every tactic, the detective finally uncovered Nicole's true face.
And that was after you cut the string?
Yeah, we needed to have something to cut the string over there. They don't have any knives. So...
But you have them with you today, right?
The what?
A knife to cut. How did that?
I think it's in my car.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Did you drive or did Sandy drive?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know where it's at, to tell you the truth. It may be in one of the bags we had with us. It may have been in I don't know. Maybe I left it, put it back in the car. Because I went back with a bunch of, I had straps. I didn't want to pay for string. But they say string is cheap.
And what, they probably don't want you to have straps.
They told me, they said, yeah, if you have straps, there was a kid over there. If you have straps, no problem, but the string is free. So I said, okay, I'll take the string.
Okay.
You know, and then I took the straps back. So, because straps can puncture the...
Yeah.
So I had a whole bag of straps that I took back to my car.
Okay, and so maybe the knife was with the straps?
Probably.
Do you have any cuts or marks on you? Have you had a chance to look at your torso or?
Somebody was telling me that I'm bleeding from my ear, from my left ear.
Who told you that?
Oh, I think it was Amy. They said, Nick, you're bleeding from your left ear. I went like this, and I went in the water, I cleaned, and then I don't see any, and I don't know if you see any cuts, but
I don't.
Yeah, so I don't know why I was bleeding from my ear.
But Amy saw.
I think she says you're bleeding from your ear, Nick. And then I cleaned and I said, look, there is nothing. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it was blood or if it was weeds she saw. I have no idea. We were like, she was on the other side and I was just...
Yeah, so she's over here, right?
She's over here, yeah, right here.
Oh, so she's closest, Amy's over here, closest to the shore?
Yeah.
Okay.
With their nestle right here. And I was over here somewhere in one of these.
Okay, and you got back in that tube then when it was time to go?
Yeah, I got back in my own tube, yes.
Okay. Did Ernesto come and get you?
No.
Like, did anybody know that you were getting punched or?
No. No.
Was anybody?
They wanted to talk to me about the phone, if I found the phone and what did those guys say, and I said, they probably did, they don't want to give it up, they attacked me, and that's it. And then I said, let's go. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So they don't know what happened here.
You didn't tell anybody?
No.
Okay.
No. You're the first one to know.
Okay.
That's why probably Amy and everybody else is so surprised.
Well, they're worried about you.
Yeah.
I mean, and even Ernesto was like, I don't know how the happened.
They don't know anything because I didn't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Everything happened so fast. I really don't remember why they attacked me. I don't know why they took my snorkel away. I don't know why one of them wanted to pull my pants down. I don't know why they were being so mean. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And why did they want to scare me with a knife? I just don't know why they're scaring people on the river. It's a family-oriented river with knives and you know what they did.
So was it two males that had knives?
I saw 2
men?
males,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
And were they both from this group, or do you even,
No,
do you even know?
well, that I don't know.
Okay.
One of them was from this group. The one
Okay.
that I took the smaller knife from, I think was from this group.
Okay, so you took the smaller knife.
From one of them.
And is that the one that you said that you kind of went,
Yes.
basically like?
Oh, I was going like this. I wanted out. They were coming and they were punching me and they were circling me and they came really close. They were pushing me in the water and I just grabbed the kid's knife. I didn't even know if I was holding it right. I just grabbed it from him because he tried to poke me with it. So I feared for my life.
It sounds like
I was very shocked. I was extremely shocked. I couldn't even say anything to anybody. I had locked jaw. I don't know. Right now, I don't even know how this happened, how I got away from all that.
So when they were pushing you in the water, did you go underwater or did you remain standing?
No, I tripped.
Okay.
I tripped and fell in the water a couple of times, yes.
Where on your body did they hit you?
In the back of my back. And I know one of the girls came over and split me right over my right ear. I couldn't even see what they were doing because I was tripping over the stones, and I was falling down, and they were just jumping on me.
I'm going to show you a picture and see if you...
I was fearing for my life. I'm still fearful that they're going to find out who I am and go do something to Sandy. And possibly some of these people over here. I fear that somehow they're going to find out who I am and continue their whatever that was.
They layered their lies. They made them louder to make the crowd more angry. He's a predator. He's a predator. They chanted. They pulled on him. They closed the space around him. They got up in his face and they pushed him. Somebody else pushed him. And they pointed and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed. And when he put up his left hand, to block and protect himself as they're in his space, in his face, he puts up his left hand to protect himself. And then they got violent. They got violent. They knocked a grown man, punched him, knocked him into the water. And when he's down in the water, they come up on him and they hit him again when he's down in the water. When he tries to get up out of the water, they attack him from the front, smack him across the front of the face, while somebody else comes from behind and starts pushing him down. In that moment, he feared for his life. And he responded in self-defense. When he's down, you'll see he's down in the water. And Dante Carlson, who punched him with his right hand, right? He was so confident. He was so confident. Had his beer in his left hand. And then he's given a beat down with his right hand. He then runs around him as Nick is falling into the water. And he's in the water. He runs around him with the beer in his hand because he knows he's got his group around him. And then he comes around and he smacks him again. You can see in the first photo, you can see the shadow of Dante's arm coming across. And you can see it hits him across the face and across the ear. That's not just a slap. That's a full hand. You'll watch the video. It knocks him down. And then when he's down in the water, you'll see AJ Carlson who you'll hear tells you that he came over there to mediate. But for whatever reason, maybe it's because of a crowd, maybe it's because of a mob, maybe it's some other mentality, but when this happens, he sees this old man down on the ground. He doesn't go to help him. He goes to push him from behind. And while he's pushing him from behind, look in the upper corner there, that's Dante's arm. You can see in the middle slide, that's Dante's hand smacking Mew across the front of his head. And then you'll see on the third slide, that's where he's extending through. So confident he's gonna beat this old man down that he keeps the drink in his hand. That's the close-up where you can see through there Dante Carlson hitting Nick Mew in the face while his friend attacks him from behind. You're going to need to make some choices in this case, right? Make some decisions. Some of the things that maybe that might help you to do. Let me just take a step back, all right? Who is Nick Mew? Who's the man that they wanted to beat down on the river? We're going to tell you about that. How did he get there? What made him be in the river on that day, as we saw here earlier? Who will tell you that story?
On July 30th, 2022, it was a nice day. Weather was in the 80s. Perfect sunny day for tubing. You'll see body cam, but it was busy. There was a lot of tubers on the river. Isaac was tubing with 5 of his best friends: Alex Fang, Juwan Cockfield, Owen Peliquin, Ryan Nelson, Landon Weiner, and the last photo is Isaac. His friends called him Bike. These are, you'll see, this is how they were dressed when they were on the river. These are screen grabs from that day. This is a map of the Apple River. Tubers started at river's edge up on the top right, and they kind of tube in this snaky U shape down and then left and up. A lot of the tubers stop and did stop in this case at the hideaway. There's a bar there, there's a beach spot to hang out. The incident occurred shortly before the tubers reached the 35 bridge that crosses over the river. My area referred to as the Sunrise Bridge. And then the place where tubers exit is called the Village Park exit. And you'll hear that the only group of these 3 groups that made it to the exit was Nikolai's group. You'll hear that shortly before the incident, Ariel's phone got knocked in the water. It was in a waterproof case. You'll hear testimony that he wasn't that worried about it. He said he has insurance for his phone, but Nikolai insisted on looking for it. So the group ends up waiting at a sandbar. Nikolai goes downstream. He's got goggles and snorkel. He's gonna look for the phone. Isaac's group is tubing a ways downstream. And you'll hear them describe that this older guy is tubing next to their tubes in extremely shallow water, getting really close to them, not really saying anything. He's got we all will describe a strange look in his face. They're creeped out by him. You'll hear from several of them that he said something about looking for little girls. You'll hear from 1 or 2 that he said something about looking for a phone. Juwan, second from the left, filmed the main video in this case. He also filmed a 9-second video shortly before that main video. And in that 9-second video, you'll see Juwan saying, he said he's looking for little girls, he's a raper. And Nikolai is walking away. He doesn't keep walking away. At the end of that video, he stops and he turns around. 2 seconds later is when that main video starts. The video is you'll see at that start of the main video, Nikolai is walking towards the group of tubers. They're down in their tubes, the teenage boys, Isaac's group. In the beginning, when Nikolai is walking towards him, he's got his hand down on a pocket, the right of his shorts. You'll hear from people from his group that that's where he kept his knife. You'll see in the video that he then starts to run. He runs at the boys who are down in their tubes.
His sentencing is now scheduled for July 31st, 2024. Moving forward, the demon didn't hesitate to take the life of one of his loved ones.
News of Becky's death came to me on the day she was murdered, February 23rd, 2023, when my brother William Postal telephoned me to say he had found her bullet-riddled dead on her bathroom floor.
On February 23rd, 2023 in Chicago, Timothy Bleefnick fatally shot his ex-wife. The prosecution isn't seeking revenge through the legal system. Their aim is to ensure a fair and just outcome. This case is no different.
The last minutes of Becky Bleefnick's life were not spent surrounded by family, friends, and loved ones. The last minute of Becky's life was not spent in the warm embrace of her 3 children, Deacon, Grayson, and Arlen. The last minutes of Becky's life were not spent in love and compassion and tenderness. No, the last minutes of Becky's life were spent in fear, in pain, in terror, as she lay on the cold gray tiles of her bathroom floor, slowly bleeding. Just a few seconds before that, Becky heard the upstairs bedroom window crash. She didn't know that at that exact moment someone was prying in that window, prying it open with a crowbar. All she knew was that she was home alone. No one else was supposed to be in the house. Her 3 boys were supposed to be at their father's house, less than a mile away. She ran into her bedroom. She slammed her bedroom door shut. She frantically tried to dial a number on her phone. But that bedroom door was forced open. It was broken open. The door frame was broken, and the phone fell out of her hand. The last number that she frantically tried to dial, 911. She was safe. The door forced open. She ran away. She ran into her bathroom, and she turned around, and she heard a shot. And she fell to the ground. She fell on her back, and she looked up into the eyes of her murderer. And then he ran away. He fled, leaving Becky lying there on the floor to die alone. They say when you confront your life flashes in front of your eyes. We will never know what was going through Becky's mind as she lay there alone, slowly bleeding, her heartbeat slowing, her breath fading, her life and her breath draining away. But what we do know is that this tragic and violent end began on January 21st, 2021, when the defendant, her husband, filed for divorce. The divorce was contentious, to say the least. In fact, at one point, the defendant described it as brutal. They didn't agree on anything. They didn't agree on custody of their children, parenting time. They didn't agree on child support. They didn't agree on how much maintenance, spousal support, the defendant should pay to Becky.
They didn't agree on the assets from the marriage. Becky thought the defendant was hiding money. They didn't agree about the defendant's father. Becky didn't want their 3 children to be around the defendant's father unsupervised. And in fact, he hadn't been for 2 years. They didn't agree on that either, though. In a letter sent by the defendant's attorney on January 3rd, 2023, the defendant said he wanted the kids 60% of the time, that he wouldn't pay any child support, that he would only pay $750 a month in maintenance, and that he would get the marital home. The house that Becky and her 3 boys had been living in since the defendant moved out and filed for divorce 2 years prior. Becky had purchased a CZ-75 9mm handgun during the course of the marriage. She wanted that back. She told her attorney she wanted that back because she was scared. She told her attorney she wanted that back for protection. She told her attorney she wanted that back for protection from the defendant. They didn't agree about that either. Becky told her family that she was scared of the defendant, scared of what he might do to her. She sent a text to her sister, a text that you will see, a text message from September 4th, 2021, 18 months before she was born. That text message said the following: if something ever happens to me, please make sure that the number 1 person of interest is Tim, as that is who would do something to me. I'm putting this in writing that I'm fearful he will somehow harm me, come after me, or will try to do something to me that takes me away from the kids, or the kids away from me. He's already lied multiple times to paint himself as a victim and me as the perpetrator, when it is absolutely the other way around. No, I have not sent this to Mom or Dad, because I don't want them to be out of their mind with worry. In May of 2021, she told another friend that the only way the defendant had to make sure that their 3 boys chose him over her.
All right, which juror has the paperwork? All right, juror number 6. I take it you are the foreman then? Yes. And has the jury reached its verdict? Yeah. Okay, and if you could hand that paperwork to the bailiff. Give it to the clerk. Would the clerk read the verdicts, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Timothy Bleesneck, guilty of home invasion, signed by the 4-person and 11 jurors. We, the jury, find the defendant, Timothy Bleesneck, guilty of first-degree murder, signed by the 4-person and 11 jurors. We, the jury, find the allegation that during the commission of the offense of first-degree murder, the defendant personally discharged that proximately caused to another person was proven, signed by the 4-person and 11 jurors.
My name is Suzanne Parker, residence Durango, Colorado. I am one of Becky Bleefnick's 3 aunts. The news of Becky's death came to me on the day she was murdered, February 23rd, 2023, when my brother William Postal telephoned me to say he had found her bullet-riddled dead body on her bathroom floor. My life since that day has never been the same, and I fully expect that to be the case for the rest of my life. Since that day, I have had no more than a few full nights of sleep, often instead lying awake, mourning all that was taken away from Becky and all the suffering her cruel and unconscionable actions have taken from all of us who knew and loved Becky, most particularly her 3 little boys, her parents, and her only sister. I can find no explanations in a normal world for such monstrous behavior except that these actions were those of a despicable, conniving, totally self-centered, and greedy narcissist. This convicted murderer deserves few words spent to describe him. Becky, however, deserves to be remembered forever for her boundless love, kindness, and caring for others. In my physical and emotional pain, and that of Becky's other family members, friends, and caring colleagues and community members touched by her. We can only keep her in our loving memories. She lives on in her 3 sons, and we must content ourselves with that and with how she enriched our lives. I personally have had to seek medical assistance for my insomnia and digestive issues created by this tragedy. But those will be worth it to me to know that you, Judge Adrian, give Becky and all who love and miss her justice. I implore you to bring that to our loved one and take away forever all chance of freedom from the monster. Thank you, Suzanne Parker.
Thank you. Tim, I was at your wedding rehearsal when you and your family proclaimed to all those present how much Becky was loved and welcomed, that it was a blessing to have such a wonderful and kind person as the newest member of the Bleefnick family. She couldn't have been placed on a higher pedestal that night. Everyone who was there would remember. I was there the next day at St. Francis Church when you held Becky's hand and looked into her eyes and proclaimed before God your love for her and your dedication to her. Remember, love and honor, better or worse, cherish. To accept children lovingly from God and bring them up in the faith of Jesus Christ. But that was not the only time you made empty promises before God and before Becky and before all the other witnesses of family and friends. Once again, standing before God during the baptism of each new son, not only did you vow to reject Satan and all his works and all his empty promises, you promised to follow the covenant that was made for you at your baptism, to proclaim the works of God in word and deed, to serve following the example of Jesus Christ, to live that example for Deacon and Grayson and Arlen. Divorce happens, marriages end, love of a spouse wanes. But the bond you created as a parent never ends. The commitment you made as a parent demands that you continue to cherish and respect your vow to your children, showing that example of love and forgiveness to your children. On February 23rd, your actions spoke to your true self, to the lie that you had been living. On that day, you proved that you didn't reject Satan, but embraced him. You once again looked into Becky's eyes, but instead of holding her hand, you shot 14 bullets into her body, and you left her dying on the floor like a wounded animal. The mother of your sons. The woman who you no longer loved as a spouse, but who you, in your divorce proceedings, you agreed to respect as your co-parent, so your boys could grow up learning the lessons of compromise, open-mindedness, and forgiveness, so they could witness courage during difficult times. Instead, they now see a coward for a father, an example of raw evil. You can never again profess love for your sons, having taken so calculatingly and callously the mom they so desperately need to provide the gentle touch that says, everything will be okay. Or the mom whose loving embrace says, you are my son, and I love you with all my heart. Or the mom who would laugh with them at their silly jokes and should be there to support them in all their moments of childhood and adolescence. The mom who should be there at their side when they're sick and who cries with them when they're hurting. But you made sure that they will never again experience any of those moments with their mom. Becky's days of living in fear have ended. She's the one person now at peace. But for each day that Deacon, Grayson, and Arlen will wake up missing their mom, for each day that Bernie, Bill, Sarah, and countless family members and friends who will feel the loss of someone they loved and longed to have back in their life, for each of those days, may you spend in a prison cell alone. But even then, your punishment will not be nearly as agonizing and painful as the death sentence you forced upon Becky. And for what? Before I sentence you, you have a right to make a statement to me. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, Your Honor. The court has considered the pre-sentence investigation report, has considered the addendums thereto, has considered the victim impact statements that were given in court, has considered each and every factor in aggravation and mitigation, and the arguments of counsel that were made here today. Mr. Bliefnick, you researched this murder, you planned this murder, you practiced this murder, you broke into her house, and you shot her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times. I don't know how long it took you to do that. Some of those shots were fired while she was lying on the ground. And you did all of that while your children were upstairs at your house, lying snug in their beds. The court believes that the appropriate sentence for each of the 2 counts of first-degree murder would be natural life in prison. Court believes that the 3rd count of home invasion, appropriate sentence is life in prison. Those 3 sentences will merge together into 1 life sentence. And then, Mr. Bliefnick, I need to give you your appeal rights. You have the right to appeal the finding of guilty and the sentence that has been imposed. The right to appeal the judgment of conviction, excluding the sentence imposed, will be preserved only if a notice of appeal is filed in the trial court within 30 days from today's date. If you desire to challenge the sentence or any aspect of the sentencing hearing, you must file prior to an appeal and within 30 days of today a written motion asking the trial court to reconsider the sentence imposed or to consider any challenges to the sentencing hearing, setting forth in the motion all issues or claims of error regarding the sentence imposed or the sentencing hearing. If you are indigent, a copy of the transcript of the proceedings of the trial and sentencing hearing will be provided, and an attorney will be appointed to assist you in the appeal or the motion to reconsider the sentence. You also have the right to ask the clerk of the court to prepare and file a notice of that appeal. You must set forth in your motions all issues or claims of error regarding the sentence imposed or the sentencing hearing. Any issue or claim of error regarding the sentence imposed or the sentencing hearing not raised in the written motion shall be deemed waived. An appeal must be filed within 30 days of sentencing, or if a motion to reconsider the sentence has been filed and denied within 30 days of the denial of the motion, or you will lose your right to appeal. If it is your desire to file a motion to reconsider the sentence, do not file a notice of appeal until after the motion is decided. Under Supreme Court Rule 606, if a timely motion to reconsider is filed, any notice of appeal filed before or after the motion will be stricken. Mr. Bliefnick, do you understand your appeal rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I would ask that Mr. Bliefnick be declared indigent and that the matter be referred to the appellate defender's office.
The court will do that, and the court will sign an order appointing the appellate defender to represent the defendant.
Thank you.
Big thanks to our viewers for joining the courtroom journey with us. Your interest in the stories of justice is what keeps our channel alive.